Hey there, my name's Koz and welcome to God's Great Story. Today we're going to have a story from the Jesus Storybook Bible by Sally Lloyd-Jones. But first, do you remember the memory verse from last time? It was a tricky one. It's, I trust you, Lord, and I claim you as my God. Pretty tricky, lots of actions. I hope you remembered it. Okay, should we have a look in the glitzy bag? I wonder what items there are today. Let's have a look. Doesn't look like there's too many things today. Oh, this is interesting. A power tool. Oh, some Lego. Do you like playing with Lego? And here comes my favourite. Do you remember what it is? It's the love heart. I wonder what today's story is going to be about. Do you think it's about building hearts? I wonder. Well, why don't you find a comfy seat and give me 2 thumbs up when you're ready. All right, let's get started. A giant staircase to heaven. Noah and his family lived in the land, and his children had children. And those children had more children. And then those children had even more. Well, you get the picture, until there were lots of people on the earth once more. Now back then, everyone spoke exactly the same language. So you didn't need to learn Swahili or Japanese or anything, because you could say hello to anyone and they knew what you meant. One day, everyone was talking and they came up with an idea. Let's build ourselves a beautiful city to live in. It can be our home and we'll be safe forever and ever. Then they had another idea. And let's build a really tall tower to reach up to heaven. Yes, they said. We'll say, look at us up here. And everyone will look up at us. And we'll look down on them. And then we'll know we are something. We'll be like God. We'll be famous and safe and happy and everything will be all right. So they got to work. Brick by brick, the tower grew higher and higher until it soared above the city, touching the sky. They built stairs in the tower to climb to the top. It was like a giant staircase to heaven. Look, they cheered, we're the ones. See what we can do with our very own hands. They were quite pleased with themselves. But God wasn't pleased with them. God could see what they were doing. They were trying to live without Him, but God knew that that wouldn't make them happy or safe or anything. If they kept on like this, they would only destroy themselves. And God loved them too much to let that happen. So He stopped their plans. One morning, they went to work as usual, but everything was different. Their words were all new and funny. You see, God had given each person a completely different language. Suddenly, no one understood what anyone else was saying. Someone would say, "How do you do?" And the other person thought they said, "How ugly are you?" Oh, it wasn't funny. You could be saying something nice like, "Such a lovely morning," and get a punch in the nose because they thought you said, "Hush up, you're boring." You couldn't even say pardon to check if you heard right because no one understood that word either. It wasn't easy to work together after that, as you can only imagine. People were always quarrelling and fighting and getting in a dreadful muddle and becoming grumpier and grumpier, until at last they were all too cross to keep on building and just had to stop. Can you see this fellow down here? He got bumped in the head. Oh dear. After that, people scattered all over the world, which is how we ended up with so many different languages to this day. You see, God knew however high they reached, however hard they tried, people could never get back to heaven by themselves. People didn't need a staircase, they needed a rescuer. Because the way back to heaven wasn't a staircase, it was a person. People could never reach up to heaven, so heaven would have to come down to them. And one day it would. Wow, what do you think of that? Can you imagine all those people trying to build a tower but not understanding what they were saying? Lots of confusing things might have happened, don't you think? All right, let's have a look at the items from Glitzy. I wonder where they fitted into today's story. The power tool. They needed lots of tools, didn't they, to build a city and to build a tower that would reach all the way to heaven? And they used bricks, lots and lots of bricks to build that high tower. And then our love heart. God loved his people and knew what they were trying to do, so he had to stop them. But there's always going to be a way, isn't there, for God to show his love to his people. He's going to send a rescuer one day, isn't he? Okay, now it's time for the memory verse. And today's memory verse comes from Psalm, a book in the Bible, and chapter 77, verse 13. And this is what it says: everything you do is right, and no other God compares to you. Would you like to try that with me? Everything you do is right, and no other God compares to you. All right, do you want to see how you go? Cos nearly got a little muddled there. All right, everything you do is right, and no other God compares to you. How did you go? Excellent. Well done. Well, that's all we have for you today. I hope you'll come back and join us again at God's Great Story. We'll see you then. Bye.